Hey guys, it's Brant, and I'm back with another The Panel Has Spoken video. And this time we're doing The Elder. And this was a fan favorite, and it created a lot of controversy on the social media. Had people giving each other little jibs or about songs that they liked and didn't like. And Rick, me and you talked about earlier that the 80s albums was going to get very interesting with
Yeah,
people picking their favorites, and this
yeah.
album was nearly impossible for me to predict any track below number one. I figured I knew what was going to be number one. I probably all picked the same song, predicted as the same song as number one. But want to get right into it. With me, I have a very special guest. Of course, I have with me all the time my partner in crime, Rick from It's All For You Demon. Also joining the panel today, I have Mr. Julian Gill of Kiss FAQ. And, sir, it's an honor to have you. You're like royalty to me. It's an honor to have you on the show.
We're all just Kiss fans. That's all we are. And thank you very much for inviting me to be on your show. That's it's a privilege for me just to get out any opportunity to pontificate with fellow Kiss fans about the soundtrack to our lives. It's a great opportunity for me. So thank you all.
Awesome, awesome. So I contacted Julian a few weeks ago. It's been a month or so ago, and me and him's been talking about getting together and doing a video for well over 6 months, trying to find the right opportunity to get him in something. And when we got to this point, I was like, hey, somebody actually mentioned in the comments about, hey, Julian Gill's read a really good comprehensive book about this, album. You should check it out. And I was kind of like, hey, he only knew who was going to be on the show. So I was really excited to see that we could get Julian for this one. And so we're going to get right into it because I've got my son Stephen here, of course.
Hey.
I can't forget who's here with me. And Stephen me and him have already reviewed the album The Elder, and he's a huge Elder fan. He's not been in a video for a while. He wanted to come back, and he wanted to come back and do this one. So this is perfect. So we got 4 of us. So we're all going to have an opportunity to say something. So I want to get right into it. We want to talk about the panel, and I do want to go down through the list of panel members really quick who all contributed to this because we appreciate each and every one of you and your input. So there's 82 of us all together, and you have, of course, me, Rick, Stephen, Julian, and then from Facebook, Ray Kelly, Keith Etz, Matthew Ucci, Mark Hilliard, Frederick Scalen. From Instagram, Tony P. Kiss Posters, The Clarences, Anthony M. Hill 18, AJ Zetro 1975, Sweet Dan 1970, Gregory Pegg, Wasson Matthew. From Twitter, we got the Twitter gang, Surrender Dorothy, Brie Life Eternal, Vincent Marone Author, Halface, Steve, Sean DeHaan, Jeff Wyatt, Colin Paradine, Jason Zimbia, Where's Drago, Tony Rod, Dave Cranston, Sam Lugas, Jack Skellington, Paul Teplius, Tom Dust, Aladio, Bill Sharp, David King, John Schaefer, and D88 Racing. And then from YouTube, George Doley, Gulamine Chapston, Emily Graziano, Lee Gersman, Demetrios K, Travis Mulgard, John B. Good, Snake Hips 3131, That Toy Bonnie Guy, Aiden Pro Dalton, Kiss Carolina Hard Rock Metalhead, Mick C, Orville Dunworth, Matthew Smith, Trevor Blaylock, Perpetual Art, Brian Stacy, John Howard, Kiss Crazy 80, Super Kiss 1200, Joel Pegg, Mikhail D, Holspa Metal, John O, Benoit Forgot, Les Wadley. And Les Wadley wanted to throw in, he picked upon his brother's behalf because this is his brother who passed away, his favorite Kiss album. So Les Wadley put his pick in on his deceased brother's behalf. Paul Bertolino, Jay Reed, Indie Cult 777, Jeremy Kimona, Darklight, 3SV 1333, Vaporman, X Joish, Dwight Manning, Tom S, Sublime 130, Jay Lee, Two Gay Dads, Keith Nidu, Greek Freak, Rick R, Guitar Man, and Steve Rivas. That's 82 of us collectively who weighed in on The Elder. So before we get into counting down the tracks and talking about our prediction for each track and then announcing how we stacked them up, does anybody have anything they want to talk about the Elder as far as their origin of it, what they think of it, what their overall feel of it is. Julian, we can start with you since you're the special guest.
Sure. Well, obviously, I became a fan in the mid 80s. So by that time, the album had disappeared from shelves. So it wasn't something that as I started to buy the catalog, I was able to find. So I ended up having to order a 7-inch single from, one of those import mail order things that were in the back of Circus Magazine to get a taste of the Elder. And I bought like the Japanese Oath single, which came with like Escape from the Island on it. So that was my first taste of the Elder. And then eventually in math class or something, one of my classmates said, "Oh, I've got the Elder. It's garbage. I'll trade you it, but I want 2 albums." So I had to give him Def Leppard's On Through the Night and 5150 for it to get the Elder. And I definitely got the better side of that trade. So, once I had it, I was absolutely blown away. I didn't know any of the hype. I didn't know any of the drama. I didn't know any of the history that fans who had come up with the band throughout the 70s and into the 80s knew. So I was completely ignorant about it and the image, because, of course, there weren't any pictures apart from on the cover of that Japanese 45. So I really appreciated it just from a musical point of view. So, it was in my boombox for quite a long time after that, just because it had been a mission to find a copy. And it to this day, obviously, with doing the book with Tim, it's remained an important part of the soundtrack to my Kiss life.
Awesome. So, Rick, what about you?
My friend Dan and myself, we were waiting for Revenge to come out, and we knew Bob Ezrin was producing Revenge, and we had already heard Destroyer. So this is probably 91-ish. So we bought The Elder on CD, and honestly, it was bizarre to me. It just didn't feel like Kiss. It was weird to me, but I was 18 at the time, and then Revenge came out, and we kind of just forgot all about it. Me as an adult, I absolutely love it, and I have to listen to it from beginning to end. It's one of those like go-to basement pieces where kind of a November record for me. I love to just kind of dive into it and soak myself into it.
Okay, so Stephen, what about you?
Well, as I'm sure a lot of your fans aren't super familiar with me because I've not shown my face in what seems like over a year now, but you are the one who actually introduced me to Kiss. It was around the time that I moved up here from West Virginia. And I think one of the I think it may have been the second Kiss album that you recommended to me was The Elder. And I think you recommended it to me purely based off of the music that you knew I already listened to. I listened to a lot of symphonic metal and stuff like that. So I feel like it was just, you were like, oh, he might like this. And I ended up loving it. I mean, it's like a very magical track, but the first thing that I thought was on the front of it, we all know it says for the motion picture The Elder. I just imagine some of these songs, I'm like, how are you gonna fit that into a film score? I'm like, I don't see how that fits, but I really love it. I don't think I would have come back for this review if I wouldn't have loved it so much. So
yeah, and it's funny, if those of you who haven't seen the video, I'll throw a card up. You can check out mine and Steven's review of this. We go deep into visualizing the story of the boy, and we kind of visualize and try to follow his track, what we conceptualize through the whole album. And it's one of those fun albums. It's really just like Rick said, you got to listen to it front to back. As far as me, I have been with the Elder since the very beginning. This was when I was during the time when my sister was getting Kiss albums faster than I was. She got Unmasked before I did. She got the Elder before I did. And she somehow, I remember it plainly, and I actually asked her about it last week just to make sure. And the copy of The Elder that she had, which I asked her if she has anymore, and she said no, she doesn't have any Kiss stuff. She's long since gotten rid of it. But I remember her version of The Elder being a promo version. I remember seeing the gold promo sticker on it. It had the vinyl in lyric sheet on the inside. And I remember the very first time I heard it, I was already in band. and in symphonic band and playing the symphonic snare and the symphonic bass in junior high. Probably not very well, but I was doing it. And I remember beginning to appreciate symphonic music. And so when I first heard The Elder, it didn't sound like Kiss, but neither did Unmasked. And neither did Dynasty. So me living it live during that time, it was kind of, we were already being prepped. We didn't know what to expect. It seemed like it was a long time before Unmasked came out. Since Unmasked came out, that The Elder came out. Wasn't sure if we were going to get it, and we knew that Kiss was possibly working on a movie. All the buzz was going around that they were working on a movie. That had already thrown the name Christopher Makepeace around, who had been in a few movies before then. And so we were expecting, hey, great, we're going to get another Kiss movie. And then The Elder came out, and when The Elder came out, it was like music from the motion picture. And so it just really started those creative images flowing. And I've always loved The Elder since the very first time I've heard it. I've always been an Elder fan, and I appreciate it even more now as an adult on so many levels, musically and visually. It's got some really confusing parts where I was like, I don't think they quite got it right, what they were trying to do. It's kind of confusing in some places, but overall, I think it's a great. It's one of those albums that, along with Carnival of Souls, I'm ashamed that, and I'm sad that Kiss is ashamed and of these albums. They're ashamed of The Elder, they're ashamed of Carnival of Souls, and they're ashamed of Kiss meets Phantom of the Park. And those are three things right there that I think are, to me, essential, just as essential as the trifecta beginning 70s, the first three albums, the second three albums, the two live albums. Just as essential to me. And I really hate that Kiss is embarrassed by this album, because I really think they put a lot into it. They really did. I will go ahead and say that I hate almost the way every instrument sounds on this album, except for the symphony. We actually mentioned that in our review, that Eric's drums sounds like they're made out of paper, and it sounds like his snare drum has a towel on the top of it. And the guitars sound tinny and flat, and Gene's bass sometimes sounds tinny and flat, and like it's you hear a lot more depth in the symphony than you do in the actual rest of the instruments of the album.
I actually had I was kind of re-listening to it this last couple of weeks to prepare myself to make my list, remake my list, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what other album around this time do I love that has better production value than this? And I went back and listened to like probably one of my favorite albums all the time, Rush's Permanent Waves, and I'm like this was like as far as we're not even talking about musicality, but just as far as like production goes, it just like wipes the floor.
Yeah.
So.
But that's a shame. But now, Julian, you did mention I looked back in my notes, and I cited where I got facts from. And you cited on one of your websites that Bob Ezrin basically produced this album, but he didn't engineer it, he didn't record it, he didn't mix it. He had a bunch of other people who did the engineering and the mixing and the recording, whereas he was just kind of leading. He was painting with very broad strokes, but I think that's one of the factors, that it doesn't have the same harmonic greatness that Destroyer and Revenge has. It has its own sound. It's just quality-wise of the sound, or the actual sound of the instruments, to me, this is the third in the list of the Bob Ezrin trilogy, as you could call it. But what do you? I mean, before we get into the songs, what do you guys think about that? Do y'all have anything with the actual overall sound of the instruments, or is that just me and him being like super hypercritical?
Well, you touched on it when you cited me. Keep in mind, this album is the Kiss album that used the most studios. I think there were 9 different studios that they worked out of, and they were rushing all over the place. I mean, they were at Ace's at the beginning, and at the end they were back at his. They were in Toronto in various studios, from Sound Interchange to little holes in the wall. So they were all over the place. They had lots of different people attached to it. And then the band were second guessing themselves throughout the whole process as well. So it's not surprising that some may pick up on, the issues with the sound. But I think, if nothing else, I find it to be an exquisitely crafted failure. There's a lot of attention to detail. I mean, when you bring in medieval horn instruments, I mean, come on. A rock band does that, and you have all these different elements, the underlying acoustic guitars layered with piano and then electric guitars in order to provide the textures. But while the mix, and this thing went through so many mixes and remixes, and that was what, it was finally to the point where it had to be done by a certain day. So no wonder it may feel a bit muddy and rushed, because at the end, when they'd been bounced around like a pinball trying to get that thing out, they probably did rush things. Bob was totally hands-on. He was completely involved in every aspect of the album, but it was certainly not Bob at his finest, and even he will probably admit that.
Yeah. Rick, you got anything to add?
Well, I just think at the time when I first heard the record, I had already heard Creatures, so that was such a huge sound, and then to hear this, it was a tad of a departure.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we'll go ahead and get into the songs. We went ahead and tracked it down as 10 songs. I kind of didn't worry about the spoken at the end of I, and you could either combine Fanfare and Just a Boy and give that a score, or you could just left Fanfare off and just scored Just a Boy on its own. I had some people do both. I just tried to combine those scores. A lot of times they were really close anyway, and usually Fanfare fell below Just a Boy, and so I usually just admitted Fanfare off their vote because it didn't matter. It was a lot of them. It was near the bottom anyway. But without giving too much away, so we're going to go ahead and start with number 10. And so I want to know what you guys predict that the panel would have chose for number 10. And we'll go in this order. We'll do Rick, and then Julian, and then Steven, and then myself, and then I'll reveal what they chose. So Rick, start with you.
I said the panel was going to choose Escape from the Island.
For number 10?
Yep.
I would have to say that it would be Just a Boy.
I think it's I.
You think it's going to be I?
Yeah.
Okay. And Julian, I kind of went along with you. I was thinking it was going to be Just a Boy, my prediction. And with 303 points, the panel chose at number 10, they chose Odyssey. Only 2 panel members, the Clarences and Guillermine Chabstain, picked it as their number 1 song. I picked Odyssey 6th for me. And let me go ahead and say also, I love this entire album. There is no bad song on this album to me. I love this. I love every track. But we had to put them in an order. So that's where it fell for me. Odyssey was, what was it, Tony Powers? And it was a song written by Tony Powers. But Jillian, correct me if I'm wrong, because I got the man that I pulled a lot of my facts from. Didn't Kiss actually record this before Tony Powers did?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. He didn't do it for a couple of years, or didn't release his, wait, this is a heist. I can't even remember now off the top of my head, but that came a couple of years later, along with a great video for it.
Yeah, so I love Paul's vocal, and I believe I got off Julian also. That originally this was supposed to be Gene singing first, and then Paul was supposed to come in right around On a Mountain High Somewhere Where All the Heroes Dare. Because Paul was there's some places where Paul and Gene sing together on these songs, and I love when they do that. I love when Paul and Gene sing, trade off verses or choruses in a song, and it almost like you listen to it, Paul's always coming in almost as the boy figure, and Gene is coming in as the narrator, bad guy, council member. Sometimes he plays multiple roles where Paul's kind of playing the role of the boy, and that's just kind of how I may be totally wrong, but that's just how I've always heard it. But I like Odyssey. I hate that it came out down. I didn't score it down that low myself. I actually picked it as number 6, but I love Odyssey. I think it's got some great melodies to it. I think it's a great song. So I guess we'll go in the same order. What about you, Rick? Where'd you pick Odyssey for yourself?
I picked it at number 7. To me, it's a little too operatic, like from a far off galaxy. But that's also the reason I do like it. I'm just kind of back and forth on this one. So it's number 7 for me. It's not super low, but I do enjoy it. And I do enjoy listening to the Tony Powers version, because when you go back to the Kiss version after listening to his version, you realize how good Kiss is. So, yeah, it's number 7 for me.
Okay, Jillian, what about where does Odyssey come in for you?
Well, on the day I listened to this and did my ranking, it came in at number 5. And I've always been offended that Paul calls his vocal tragic on this. I just shake my head and just say, Paul, you were batting above average on what you were trying to give to this album vocally. You were outside your comfort zone. You were trying to stretch and reach into a far off galaxy, and I just think it's a majestic vocal. I love the song. I love kind of the lyrics, which are just very un-Kiss like in terms of kind of how they would have presented themselves if they were writing that sort of song. So I've always found it a fascinating song. I would love to hear a Gene version of this. If he ever did a take, I'd love to hear how he phrased it, how he approached it. It'd just be one of those glorious things just to get to finally hear if he did.
Okay. Where'd you pick it at for you as far as your number?
5th.
Fifth. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, Stephen, you?
Well, I sent mine to you as in points, so I guess that would make mine 5, right? Because if it was 6th in points, if it had 6 points, that means it would be number 5 overall. So yeah, I picked it for 5 for me.
Okay.
I don't know. I just like this song is kind of like epic and really grandeur, and I mean a lot of the songs on this album are, but I feel like this is more of away from like the traditional rock, and that's I think whenever it comes to like the songs that I really like off those albums, that's gonna be the trend and the songs that I favor. So
all right, so that brings us up to number 9. So Rick, what'd you predict for number 9? What'd you predict the panel choose for number 9?
For the panel, I said the Fanfare, Just a Boy.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, I think the panel would probably be Escape.
Escape from the Island. Okay.
I'm going Escape as well.
Escape. I thought Mr. Blackwell. I really didn't know. I just kind of. I was just throwing a dart. I darted a board almost on. It's just like, oh, well, maybe Mr. Blackwell. And it was hard for me to separate how I feel for some of these songs from what I thought other people were going to pick. Coming in at 315 points at number 9 is Escape from the Island. 3 panelists, Gregory Pegg, Kiss Crazy 80, and Steve Rivest. Steve Rivest picked it as their number 1. Me personally, I picked it as number 10. I picked it as my least favorite. It's not that I don't like it. I think it has I think it's great. It's got it's for Ace. It's almost. I would have liked to hear. I guess my thought when I was my brain was splitting. I was having a moment, guys. I'd read somewhere that Kiss wanted to have a lyrics to this, but they couldn't come up with a melody. I may be right, maybe wrong. But I would like to have heard if this would have had a melody. This is always one of those songs that just kind of confused me. Why there is an instrumental song like this, other than if you see the boy and he's running through the jungle trying to get off the island after just having killed Mr. Blackwell, and there's bombs going off behind him because you hear all the bombs and everything exploding. And all of a sudden I just start seeing Bruce Willis, just running and bombs, or I'm being a kid, it's like it becomes an action movie at this point in time, and it kind of went from being Lord of the Ringish type to being Lethal Weapon, or Die Hard. And it was a very confusing song. But I'm not the hugest fan of instrumentals, so I put it down low for me. What about you, Rick?
I put it at number 10 also. I just wanted a little more out of like a Kiss jam. I just wanted something more. And to me, the ending always seemed confused. It almost seemed like they didn't know how to end it. So it was like, I don't know. The ending of this track just always seemed like rushed and confused. It never seemed like it had like a real good ending to it. So it's number 10.
Okay.
I think I was a little bit more generous. I ranked this at number 8. And that's probably because it was the B-side to that Oath single that, I bought way back when. So I've always been fascinated by this. And it was only kind of during the writing of the book that a work tape of them actually working through this song surfaced. There were like 8 takes of them, and it developed, and finally reaches the final form. I love it. I think what you said about it being like a Die Hard soundtrack is certainly closer to than anything that you can kind of put together with the story and the plots that they had planned out and various treatments that they'd done for the story. So it doesn't make any sense within the context of it. I don't see any way that they could ever have thought about putting lyrics to it. It's just not that sort of music track that could take lyrics, other than maybe grunting, shouting, or just screaming.
Yeah. So what about you, Mr. Guitar Man?
Mr. Guitar Man, who happens to also really love instrumentals, you mean?
Yes.
It's place 6 for me.
Okay.
So, and I think I just summed up my reasoning right there. I mean, like, I personally, I think this is the track that the guitars sound the best on, because that's the only thing that there is really. But, and, I'll kind of echo what everyone else has said. Like, up until this point in the album, we've had like a pretty solid, like, we can imagine what kind of time period this film would have taken place in. Even the front of the cover looks very old school, like medieval. And then you've got like tornado sirens. Like, what? Like, okay, Mr. Blackwell kind of does the same thing as well, though. It kind of throws...
Yeah, the album gets kind of real confusing around Mr. Blackwell, Escape from the Island. Mr. Blackwell, we said in our thing, sounds like a Wall Street tycoon.
Yeah.
Like he steals the old lady's money out of her purse when she's not looking. The little greasy slime ball, so...
Yeah, but we'll digress from that. But yeah, so, it's 6 for me.
I do like the fact that this is all Ace and Eric. I mean, it's just... there's no Gene, no Paul. It's Ace and Eric on this song, and there was a lot of that going on during the Dynasty, Unmasked, Elder era type. Whenever Ace would kind of get off in his own little studio and make his own stuff, and here you go, here's my tracks. Add to them if you want, but I think he was just kind of phoning some things in at this point. He was real disillusioned with the whole process. So that brings us up to number 8. So what do you predict the panel chose number 8, Rick?
Yeah, this was just hard to decide what the panel would choose, so I said Under the Rose.
Yeah, I went with Mr. Blackwell.
I'm going to say Fanfare, Just a Boy.
Fanfare, Just a Boy. And my number 8 was, I thought they were going to choose Escape from the Island. And what they actually chose with 343 points and is at number 8 is Just a Boy. And no one picked it as their favorite. And for me personally, I picked Just a Boy as number 4. I love Fanfare. I love the monks in between fanfare in Just a Boy, and I love Just a Boy from when that bass note slides up until it's done and it finishes and goes into Odyssey. I love Just a Boy. I love everything about it. It's too short, in my opinion. But yeah, it's a great, great song. I even like the falsetto. There's a part in it, you're talking about, Julian, you're talking about the care that they took. Go back and listen to whenever, after Paul gets done saying, while some would search for one to guide us, some are staring at me. And when they break into that, for I'm no hero, though I wish I could be. Listen to that, for I'm no hero, from where they say that to though I wish I could be. And listen to the layers of harmonies there. There's stuff from all the way down at the bottom to all the way up at the top. I mean, you hear Paul really, really pushing his voice. There is a very high, though I wish I could be. I mean, it is way up there, way higher than I could ever sing. And you hear it if you listen for it. And just that little part right there, it's like, wow. There's like 6 or 7 overdubs of vocals just right there. And it's just that kind of, I'm just a boy too young to be sailing. I mean, it's just those visuals, and it's not Kiss songs. It's a great solo, but it's too short. But I love Just a Boy. It's 4th for me, solid 4. So, what about you, Rick?
Oddly, I ranked it at 9, which I don't know why I ranked it so low. Now that I look up my ranking, because I do like this song a lot. It's a great mood setter. Like you said, from fanfare into the song, it's almost like a perfect setting for the record. And I love like the sound effects after Paul says "just a boy," and then I love that solo after the first chorus. Mm-hmm. I do like this song. I don't know why I ranked it so low. I don't know what I was thinking, but I ranked it at 9. I do like it.
All right.
I like it too, and I ranked it at 10. but something has to be top and something has to be bottom, and it's very difficult with this album to kind of move the pieces around into where they feel they should be. And by ranking it least and lowest, or not liked on my list, it's not because I don't like it, because it's absolutely exquisite. You mentioned that solo. I want to know who played that. That's still a mystery. Mm-hmm. And we've never had a definitive answer to who that is.
I was going to mention that,
it doesn't sound or feel like Paul.
I was going to mention that, but I wanted to see if you brought it up, that it was rumored that it was Paul. And Paul, it's definitely a solo that Paul could have done, but there's just a feeling there that I don't think Paul quite had. It was close to kind of his solo at the end of Hold Me, Touch Me. But it still didn't have quite the feeling. There's feeling behind that. I don't think it's Paul either. But we may never know.
But those acoustic guitars in it, just the strum and then the silences, the wind chimes or the triangles, and just everything that pulls together in this song. It's absolutely glorious piece of music. But as proper number 1 on the album, for anyone playing the original track listing, it's just got to be the worst way to start a Kiss album possible, and that's why it goes straight to the bottom of my list.
Ooh, we ready for the upset, boys?
Go ahead.
Number 2.
Number 2 for you. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I love it. I love the entire track. I mean, it's the perfect, it is what it is. It's like the perfect mood setter for the entire album, and like it gives you this expectation and these visions and the SFX that go on, and the harmonies and the craftsmanship around like the orchestra. I don't like the sound of the acoustic guitars personally. I think they sound very cheap. But other than that, like I love every bit of it, and I especially love Paul's vocal delivery for the whole thing. Even though some people say that he shouldn't be singing up there, I disagree personally. So yeah, Just a Boy is number 2 for me.
Yeah, there's also, you mentioned the working the working copy that you heard about the time you was writing your book, Julian, of Escape from the Island. If you search for it on YouTube, there's a working copy of them figuring out Just a Boy too. I stumbled across it a few years ago. I don't know if it's been taken down, and I haven't searched for it again since. But it's basically, you can hear they're kind of counting through and figuring out, and they progress, and begin building it up to it. It never makes, of course, it's a working copy, it's a rehearsal copy. It never makes it to the quality that's on the album. Doesn't get to that finished point. But it's something definitely to look for and see if it's still out there somewhere on YouTube.
It is still out there, and there's actually one of those mixes as a church organ, very J.S. Bach. So you get like this really heavy church organ background to Just a Boy. It's insane. So do search that out on YouTube, because it's still up there and it circulates for collectors.
Okay, awesome. All right, so now we're up to number 7. So Rick, what's your prediction for panel?
I said Odyssey.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Under the Rose.
Okay.
I'm going Under the Rose.
Under the Rose. Mm-hmm. And Rick, I copied off your paper. I said Odyssey. Coming in at number 7, 361 points. And you see we're still in the 300s. There's not a lot of separation here. 361 points. At number 7, the panel chose Mr. Blackwell. 3 panelists, Ray Kelly, Aidan Pro Dalton, and Benoit Forgot, picked it as their number 1. I picked it for me as my number 8. And like Julian said about picking Just the Boys number 10, it don't mean that I don't like it. You got to rank them somewhere. And in the context of everything else, I think the biggest problem I have with this song, it's a demon song on a Kiss album, and you knew it's God of Thunder for the Elder, but it's confusing, and you don't really, you kind of, the context of the story starts getting clouded when you get to this part. It's like, this is how Gene and Lou Reed and Bob decided to introduce the demon, or to introduce the antagonist to the story, and I just think it kind of clouds the waters a little bit. But I love the beginning. The beginning is spooky as crap. This song in the dark with the lights turned out, if you're at home by yourself, you will think you got the demon standing in the corner. You're expecting the lights to turn red and blood be coming out of his mouth in the corner and him lurking over you. But it, like I said, it's a demon song. But it kind of clouds the waters. But I love how he sings the low, I never said, and he's kind of comes in together. How it jumps in. And even like the vocals sound like we were talking about it in our review, where it's like, you cheat and lie. It's like... Yeah. It has a swagger to it, yeah. But it drops low for me just because it clouds the story a little bit for me. I get kind of lost. So, what about you, Rick?
I ranked it at number 4, and I do agree it feels odd in the story context of the record, but it is such a demon song. Like you said, those beginning bass notes are him spitting blood. I love the reverb sound of his hands on the bass strings, where you hear the whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Mm-hmm. It's just such a demon song. I absolutely love it. But I do agree with you. In the context of, the story of the album, it feels out of place. But I ranked it at number 4 just because I love it. Once again has his Phantom of the Park voice in it, and I love it.
Yeah, in terms of the story, what is a Mr. Blackwell? Well, in one treatment, he's like an imp, a demon. In the song, he's a demon. In another treatment, he's like a Wall Street power broker. So it's kind of confusing when you've read all these different treatments and then you go listen to this stuff. And then I ranked it number 9. So this was pretty low on my list, strictly because I see it as a poor man's God of Thunder. That cluster of notes in the intros is the same as God of Thunder. It's just a rephrasing of the same thing. The intro, the demonic stuff that frightens you, well, that's just like a poor man's Ron Frangipane intro to Radioactive. So it's not very original, and it's not bad enough. It's not demon-like. It's really not scary for a villain. So that's why it's down there. But you know what? I love listening to it. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm. All right. What about you?
I have it at number 3.
Okay. All right.
Oh, why am I so different than you guys?
But I love it because you're the youngest of all of us. I love it.
Yeah. I really like this song. I don't know. I spend a good amount of time playing like horror games and stuff, and like I can just so clearly hear like the beginning of that song in like a horror game or something. And I feel like it's kind of creative the way, whoever's decision it was, I feel like it was kind of creative to like add the delay over the string, movement. That seems like a pretty cool thing to do. And as far as story context goes, it does shake things up a little bit, but maybe it's like that what they wanted it to be. Maybe Mr. Blackwell is like an interpretation of like what evil is to you. Maybe you gotta think of it like that.
Right.
So maybe Mr. Blackwell is a demon. Maybe he is a Wall Street slimeball. Like, who knows?
Yeah, it could be an imp. He could be the embodiment of what you perceive as evil.
Yeah.
That's a out of the mouths of babes. Gotta love it. Okay, so now we're up to number 6. One spot out of the top 5. So lead us off, Rick, with that prediction for number 6.
I said Mr. Blackwell.
Okay.
I said Only You.
Ooh. I said Only You as well.
And we're all copying off each other's page. I said Only You also. At number 6 with 472 points, jumping 111 points up from number 7. 472 points at number 6. The panel chose A World Without Heroes at number 6. 5 panelists: David King, Perpetual Art, John Howard, Paul Bertolino, and Tom S. picked it as their number 1. I picked A World Without Heroes as number 9 for me. It's not that I don't like it. Like I find myself repeating what Julian says. It's 10 to me on this is better than most songs on some Kiss albums. But you have to rank them. To me, it's almost like When You Wish Upon a Star and Man of a Thousand Faces. It's almost like it's a Gene Simmons solo album throwaway, in my opinion. And it was written for this because Gene was just, wasn't this Every Little Piece of Me originally or something like that, or something? It was Every Little Piece or something. I can't remember. And Lou Reed helped Gene. He was just throwing words out. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, Jillian, because I usually steal my information from you.
Then you'll never be wrong, and I'm not going to correct myself.
No. But I like it. I do like it. I remember being a kid, and a lot of people were pissed off about this song, especially the video with the demon crying at the end. People are like, "What the hell? The demon don't cry." First, Gene, you sung When You Wish Upon a Star, and you smacked us on one side of the face, and now you done cut your hair, put on these new gay costumes, and now you're singing World Without Heroes and crying. And I remember seeing the video on Solid Gold. They played it on Solid Gold, and the Demon fans got smacked on the other side of the face, and it pissed a lot of people off. I remember living it back in the day. But to me, it just comes in at 9. There's so many other better songs on the album, in my opinion. So what about you, Rick?
I ranked it at number 5. I love Gene Simmons' solo album. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's just very solo Gene. it's very deep lyrics for him, kind of almost Imagine type John Lennon lyrics in a way. This is a song I can picture on Carnival of Souls, actually. And I just always liked it. It just had that Gene solo vibe to me. And being a fan that became a fan in the late 80s, seeing this video on extreme close-up was huge in my life as a teenager. But yeah, just got a great Gene solo vibe to it, so I love it.
Yeah, I ranked this close to you, Rick, number 4. And I think it's one of Gene Simmons' very, very best vocals. But I don't know if I'm also biased because I really love what they did with it on MTV Unplugged. So I think that probably colors me a little bit because it's a dreadful, kind of lead-off single from an album, especially when you're Kiss. And it's, again, I drew a lot of parallels between The Elder and Destroyer. So this one fills the category of Beth. But you know what? Demons don't cry. So, but it's such a great vocal. And, lyrically, it's a pretty interesting song. So yeah, I'm glad they got rid of those borrowed vocals because Paul's original melody was someone else's song. So Every Little Piece of Your Heart was actually, I think that was Linda Ronstadt. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was someone else's song, and they got rid of that. It was Lou Reed's lyrical idea. So
I love the French horns in this. I meant to say that whenever I was talking. I love the French horn. The orchestration in this is great. And isn't this a Paul Stanley solo on here? Julian, I can't remember. And it's a very David Gilmour-ish solo. I remember listening to it today.
It is one of his very best.
I was coming home from Tennessee, driving home, and I'd already done my list. My score had been counted. But I remember listening. I was like, wow, that sounds like Pink Floyd. For that song during that part turns into Pink Floyd. But yeah, I love you was talking about some of the orchestration in it. I'm a French horn freak, and I love the French horns in this.
You should see all the French horns he has in his garage.
Yeah, I collect French horns. I don't have a garage.
No, you don't. I scored this one as 10.
This is your low, huh?
This is my low, and I don't like it.
Okay.
I think it's boring and cheesy.
Okay. We can't win them all with him, okay?
I mean, that's just how I feel. This, someone who grew up in like the 90s and 2000s, like this just seems like a story that's been told like 1,000 times in songs to me. Mm-hmm. And so...
Emo Kiss.
Yeah. So it's like, Kiss. I mean, I've heard all this kind of stuff. I grew up in the emo phase. Like, not having hope is new, not anything new to me. So... I don't know. It's just not the strongest song. It's just not to me. Yeah. So what I'm looking for in this album is a song that like makes me delivers an emotion to me, and just this one just doesn't.
So this is your low point of the album. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's see. So top 5. Awesome. So we're getting into it, and this is going to be fun, guys. So Rick starts off with that number 5 prediction.
Prediction is A World Without Heroes.
Okay.
Prediction is Dark Light.
Yeah, that's mine as well. Dark Light.
Dark Light?
Yep.
My prediction for number 5 was Under the Rose. And with 495 points, at number 5, the panel chose Under the Rose. 10 panelists: Mark Hilliard, Keith Utz, George Doley, Kiss Carolina Hard Rock Metalhead, Brian Stacy, Indie Cult 777, Jeremy Kimona, 3SV 1333, and Guitar Man picked this as their number 1 song on the album. And I picked this as my number 1 song on the album too. I remember when me and you reviewed this, The Oath was my number 1 pick. Yes. But I've changed my mind. Under the Rose, hands down. Well, not hands down, but Under the Rose is my. It's been stayed at my number 1 for a couple weeks now since I started listening to this again to do this panel. And there is so much. First, it's Eric Carr melody. The drums are written. I love the whole interlude after the chorus. The da na 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 na. So much fun to play on drums. The solo is great. Ace puts in a good solo on this. I like the echo they put on it. And I love the way Gene sings the same way he sings on this as he does on World Without Heroes, except this song has a little bit more balls to it, in my opinion. And the choir that sings, I don't care that the choir is who sings the chorus and that Kiss is not singing the chorus, because Kiss ain't playing the orchestra instruments either. So, this was a group effort. And when that chorus comes in, that loneliness will haunt you. Oh, man. Woo. That's right there. That's what it does. That is what I live for Kiss songs for, that when I hear them, my hair stands up on end. That, to me, is a good Kiss song. And Under the Rose is my number one pick off of this album. What about you, Rick?
Well, now I want to go back and listen to Under the Rose and maybe rank it higher. I ranked it at 8, and the reason I ranked it low was the choir chorus. I never dug that, but listening to you talk about the song
just
now,
take it out of your mind that it's not Kiss, and just listen to it. That whole scheme.
Yeah. I do have a greater appreciation of it now, right now, sitting here. That's why I love these panels. I'm not a huge Destroyer fan, and so that choir chorus reminds me of Destroyer, and so it just ranks low for me.
At least it didn't 70s background singers.
True.
Could have been female 70s background singers.
True.
Like See You in Your Dreams.
I love the solo though.
Yeah.
Those delays and those effects on that solo are so Ace Frehley. And
very thought out.
I love the solo. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I do want to go, after we're done here, I'm going to go listen to the song again.
All right.
Yeah, you said it there, Rick, the solo. And that really is exquisite. I ranked this at number 7 on mine. I wish I could have put it higher, but there's just stuff I prefer above it, even though it's, Eric Carr's first real contribution to the band. And it's also kind of the one song on the album that really makes sense. It with the chanting, with the different sections of music, it kind of fits into the story, and it feels like it belongs. Even if it doesn't make sense, it feels right. So it's a lot of good music in there. Gene's vocal is good. Middle of the road on, kind of my personal ranking.
Okay, so I will say I did put this one low. I put it at 9, but I think for me, 9 and 10 are this far apart. So I really do like the song. There's many more that I prefer more than this. And the reason that I put this one kind of low is because, I don't know, there's just something about Eric Carr, or the drummer-oriented songs that I don't know. I just never can feel them rhythmically, and I think that's the difference whenever you let you write a different song on a different instrument, and so songs that are written on guitar and played with guitar are ones that I find myself more inclined to, and so anytime that there's a Peter song or a Eric either one song, I just never can really feel them that much. But I do really enjoy, the choir is really great. I do really like Ace's solo. I mean, this is one of those ones that I don't feel like he phoned it in or just played his, old bag of tricks. I feel like the effects definitely kind of help bring it out of that area from mediocrity. But it's probably one of my favorite, not my favorite, but I'd say probably top 3 in the album as far as solos go. But yeah, number 9.
You're talking about visuals. The visual I see whenever I was a kid, you open up the book and you've got the big long table there. and I see the boy standing at the end of this table, and the Order of the Rose is up and down this table, and you've got the elder sitting at the end of the table, and he's the one. He stands up and he goes, "Though you may be pure of heart," and he's talking. This is the elder of the Order of the Rose talking to the boy. And then you get that pause, and the boy's standing there, and he like nods his head, or it's like, and then it's like I used to see the whole table standing up and be, "Do you understand? Will you sacrifice?" Just pointing at him. And that's just the visuals I saw when I was a kid. That's just what I see whenever I hear this song. And even to this day, 50 years old, I see that in my head still. Okay, so number 4. What's the prediction on number 4, Rick?
Dark Light.
Dark Light.
My prediction was a world without heroes.
Okay.
Mine was way wrong. Mine was Odyssey.
Odyssey. Wow. Okay. And my number 4 prediction was World Without Heroes. And what the panel chose at breaking into the 500s at 502, only 7 above Under the Rose, but at 502 at position number 4, the panel chose Dark Light. And 3 panelists, Brie Life Eternal, D88 Racing, and Dark Light, of course, picked it. I always thought whenever he went to put his thing in, I'm like, what if Dark Light didn't pick Dark Light as his favorite song? But I picked Dark Light as number 5. This song used to be higher for me, but over the years it's dropped a little. I've never liked the beginning, even though it gives that. It's supposed to give that. It always makes me think of Jaws, and I don't know if that was intentional or not. But I wish this song would have just started off with, they would have put some eerie, maybe sound stuff at the beginning of it, and they would have just done something different, and then it just come in with that off beat rhythm. I mean, I love that riff. That riff is awesome. I love the way Ace sings in this, and I love the talking that he does, and it's getting darker all the time. It's kind of mysterious. It's kind of eerie, mischievous, trying to set that dark tone. But then it just kind of jumps into this little happy, the dark light, the dark is never ending. It's kind of, and I love the solo. I love that it's just guitar and drums and percussion. There's no bass, there's no rhythm guitar. It's just Ace. And in my opinion, although I've heard people say this solo is disorganized and whatever, there are some places where he just seems like he's just pulling different Ace riffs out of his bag. There's certain parts on it where he's just shredding. And so I like it. I think it's a great solo. But yeah, Dark Light's kind of fell over time for me. So what about you, Rick?
I put it kind of middle of the road, number 6. I always thought Jaws as well at the beginning. And it always reminded me in like 79, Ace would do the Close Encounters music during his solo. I always kind of connected this and that. I don't know why. I was 18. But yeah, middle of the road for me. It's a Ace song. It's fun. It as with the song title Dark Light, I wish it was a little darker, but like you said, his solo, it's actually like shredding to me. Like there's like the first like Kiss solo that just has like pure shredding on it. And it always kind of just made me sad because this is like our last Ace song, of the time. And, hearing the song, you just kind of wish he would have had contributions on Creatures, but middle of the road for me, number 6.
Okay.
I have this one up on number 3, strictly because it's Ace Frehley. that always weighs heavily on my mind on an album where he accused everyone of taking his solos off and cutting down his contributions. The title is just idiotic. Dark Light, that's just pure Lou Reed. So it never really made much sense, but come on, it's an Ace song. It doesn't need to make sense. Musically, him attacking that guitar throughout the song is just wonderful. It's exquisite. It's Ace's last hurrah. I agree about the intro, the Jaws stuff. It's trying to be ominous and scary, and I think this is one that they could have put some synthesizers and spacey kind of weird stuff about magic in. That would have been equally senseless. But in terms of the rest of the album being absolutely senseless in terms of what's there, go on, go for it, make Ace happy. He certainly made me happy with this song. Great song.
Yeah, that staccato, that da 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 da. It's just great moving around on those chords. It's great. Now, wasn't this originally "Don't Run" and Lou Reed and Gene shredded it and changed words around to make it try to fit more into context? Yeah.
Totally shredded it, but then again, Ace also shredded it when he did it on the cruise. That was epic to watch him try and play this song. Just hilarious.
What about you, Guitar Man?
Number 4. Number 4, yeah. I, unlike most of you, have no loyalties to which member played something. So I just judge a song on its merit. And I don't know, it's just a rock song, dude. Mm-hmm. And I love it. But I try and disregard the intro because you can't just steal a melody from something that's been written. And I don't know how they got away with that, to be honest. I looked up because I didn't know, because I wasn't around at this time. I didn't know if this was made before or after Jaws. So
it's after.
Yeah. And I was like, what? You can't do that. You couldn't get away with that nowadays. But yeah, man, it's straight up shred, and I love it. And I'm not normally a shred guy. You know me. I'm more of a
melodic, progressive,
bluesy, progressive. Melody is very important to me. And so I'm not crazy into shred, but this, it's coming out of Ace, which is someone who normally just plays your standard pentatonic blues scale type stuff. So it was nice to hear, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, go 4 for me.
Yeah, I love that. I love how Ace can just do so many things. There's one part of the solo where he just takes his hand. He just takes his hand and just runs it down the neck. It's it's metal.
It's just rock, man. Just rock music. Just do what you want.
Yeah, man. But towards the end there, though, he's just shredding. He's just freaking shredding. He really is. That brings us to the top 3. Top 3. So, what you got there for that prediction for number 3, Rick?
Only You.
Only You. All right.
Yeah, at Odyssey.
Okay.
I was going to say The Oath.
The Oath?
Yeah.
All right. Wow, The Oath at number 3?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how people feel about, I'm not into, the online drama or anything. I mean, other than what we had discussed a couple of years ago. But, some people are really flabby about Paul doing falsetto, especially in this point in his career where he wasn't, very great at doing it yet.
Yeah. I predicted that they were going to choose Dark Light at number 3. I was off just a little bit. What the panel chose for number 3 at 506 points. So only 4 points more than Dark Light. At number 3, the panel chose Only You. And it had 3 panelists: Anthony H. Hill, Where's Drago, and Mikkel D. picked Only You as their number 1. Me, I picked Only You as my second favorite song. This is, to me, the most classic Kiss song on the album. It has some amazing riffs in it. It has some amazing old school riffs that almost pre-War Machine. that riff in it. Whenever they break into that, it reminds me so much of War Machine, that was to come in just a year or two. I love I love everything about this song, but one of my favorite parts is whenever they go into the part where he says, "In every age and every time a hero is born," as if by a grand design, and then they reprise back into the melody from Just a Boy. Golden. That, to me, the Beatles did it. I mean, bands like that did it. And I know the Beatles, they were huge fans of the Beatles. They did it on songs on Abbey Road. They did it on songs on Sgt. Pepper. And that, to me, is the feather in the hat and the feather in the cap and the tip of the hat to the Beatles whenever they did that. And it kind of brings the story back together that, oh, yeah, we were talking about the Just a Boy at the beginning. It's only you have the answers. You are the light and you are the way. I love this because this is the story. This is just, it's ingrained in the story to me. It's before it gets clouded. But yeah, Only You is amazing. I love it. It's number 2 for me. Rick?
Number 2 for me as well. And my number 2 is tied with my number 1. And my number 1 has a little Beatles tip of the hat as well. I absolutely love this song. I love the riff. And Steven, you have to teach me how to play that riff because I absolutely love that riff. I need Tom Dust to post a video of him playing this riff. The riff is so much fun, and like you said, Brant has that delicious riff in the middle that we would later hear on Revenge again. But oh man, such a great feel with this song. Almost has like a Within feel too. But man, I absolutely love this song. Number 2 for me. Actually, number 1, but I had to pick an order.
I feel guilty after that. Number 6.
That's okay. You got to place it somewhere.
Don't feel guilty, man.
Again, it's just, where the other ones fell that day. It's a gorgeous song. And, now that kind of the vault's out and you get to hear Gene's earlier versions of the melodies and how it was, a decade in the making for him to get to where he did. The vocal is fantastic. And I love that Beatles element. And again, pulling in at the end what they did. Just a really nice touch.
All right. Well, Julian, don't feel guilty because it's number 7 for me. Yeah, I don't know what it's kind of the same way I felt about, I don't know. It's just like, there's nothing in this song that really like spoke to me. I mean, like the guitar riffs are great and, they sound very cool. I don't really enjoy Gene's soft-spoken vocal delivery that much. It's not like, I just don't like the style, and I think that puts a big halter on it for me. I will say that, like, when they reprise back to Just a Boy, like, I'm glad that that's not a songwriting cliche that's been, like, killed, because I really, really enjoy it, and that, like, shows a consciousness of, like, songwriting that bands can have sometimes, where, they reprise back to a melody or a vocal line, and that's really cool, and, there are a lot of bands out there to do it, but it's not like overabundant, and so I'm glad that's something that's not been done a lot. But yeah, number 7. Sorry.
That's okay. We talked about how Gene's an underappreciated bass player. I want to say at the beginning of this, it starts off with just that real simple classic, that little that little riff, and when Gene comes in and starts singing. He's the bass that's behind his vocal. He's singing to the melody of the bass line that he's playing. And once the drums come in, he kind of settles in on the the quarter notes and the half notes. But when he's doing that do 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 do, he's playing along to what he's singing. And I love whenever it comes in and the drums start playing. It almost sounds like they put a backwards effect on his voice. You hear his words come in before he actually says them. Yeah. That's really cool for the atmosphere of the song and the atmosphere of the album. That's another little Bob Ezrin trick.
And that could have been easy to do at the time either. I mean, these days you just throw a filter on in a digital workspace, but I can't. If they were working like it with tape at that time, I couldn't imagine that would have been something easy to do.
That would have been interesting to see how they would have done that with tape. They would probably maybe I had to record some stuff backwards. And
I will say I forgot to mention this really quickly. And the one thing that I really admire about the writing of this song is in the intro riff, like the first 8 measures before it starts to repeat again. In the intro riff, Ace doesn't play a duplicate chord in that whole 8 measures. He plays chord inversions the whole time, which gives it like a different. It's like you never get to fully settle in onto what it sounds like until it's already started repeating again. I think that's a really nice writing technique, and that also shows that like where Ace has come from, like even just since the beginning of Kiss.
Mm-hmm. See, I love when we turn our things into music theory classes because I know a lot of our viewers like perpetual art. They perk up whenever we start talking theory and notes and pentatonic scales and diminished arpeggios, and they love that, especially when it comes out of a drummer. But you know.
Well, I mean, Kiss plays all diatonic music mostly, so
yeah. So there you go, perpetual art.
You can only go so far.
All right, so we are up to the top 2. So once we say what number 2 is, process of elimination. If you've been paying attention and playing at home and haven't skipped to get to this part, you'll know what number 1 is. But we'll do it. So Rick, what'd you predict panel for number 2?
Aye.
Of number 2, what did I predict? I thought it would be Mr. Blackwell.
Mr. Blackwell? Wow.
Yeah. I like the song! I mean, I can't help no one else thinks the way I do.
and for me, I as well. And so at number 2, beating out only you by 1 point at 507 points, coming in at number 2 is I. 15 panelists: Tony P. 1, Vincent Marone, author, Jeff Wyatt, Jason Zimba, John Schaefer, Emily Graziano, Lee Gersman, That Toy Bonnie Guy, Trevor Bullock, Super Kiss 1200, John O, Jay Reed, X Josh, Two Gay Dads, and Rick R. picked it as their number 1 song. I picked I as number 7. I remember seeing this on TV whenever they played it the very first time. Of course, they were using a track, and you see the memes all the time of Gene and Paul saying, "I believe in me." And I remember they didn't say, "and the balls to stand alone." It was, "and the guts to stand alone." But I remember seeing and I to me was just, even the lyric before Paul starts singing, the whole gang, get down. It's just, Eric didn't play on it, which we didn't know that. But Paul does his best. I love the I was so frightened, almost ran away. I mean, but I like that Paul did that. I don't understand exactly what he was trying to get to with that, but it's a Paul and a Gene. It's rock and roll all night for the Elder to me. It's supposed to be the anthem. It's supposed to be the I believe in something more than you can understand. It's supposed to be the I want to rock and roll all night, or the shout it out loud of the album. To me, that's my opinion. But I've never really liked this song very high on the album. It's never been in the top 5, but I don't dislike it. It falls in 7 for me. So what about you, Rick?
I picked it at number 1. Absolutely I absolutely love any time Gene and Paul trade off vocals. That's a win for me right there. Lyrically, I love it because this is where we would see Gene go in the 80s. Trial by Fire, those positive, like, you can achieve any dream you want. Those Gene lyrics that I grew up loving. This was like the first, kind of. And just such a fun, great jam song. Again, I love the tip of the hat to the Beatles at the end, with Gene actually singing a lyric from Rock and Roll All Night.
I want to rock and roll. Yeah.
Yeah, a little tip of the hat to All You Need Is Love at the end of that song. I've always loved that, and it's such a positive track. I think I'm a huge Julian. I'm a huge Asylum fan, and like songs like Trial by Fire were so big to me as a teenager. I would write those lyrics down and think, oh, with the power of this band, I can do anything as well. And that's what I get from this song. That's why it's number one for me.
Yeah, Gene Simmons is a motivational or inspirational speaker. I don't know how well that works. I believe in me, me, me. Oh, yeah, you Ace, you don't need to get wasted. It only holds you down, dude. At a time when you're having a problem with your guitarist, you kind of lecture them in your lyric. But I love how they, the vocals. I love the music. I love the swagger of the song. I love the West Side Story Paul vocal part, that you mentioned. Everything about it. This could be one. It could be number two. On this day, I ranked it number two. Could easily be number one. It's positive Kiss music. It's, life affirming. It's positive, and it also rock and rolls all night. So, it's a perfect Kiss composition and execution. And Eric Carr had no problem playing that song on Fridays. So I just don't get why, they say he couldn't cop the feel. Well, he copped it fine in the, when they did play it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Eric Schwarzenberg, I've noticed that whenever I was doing research, he always had a tendency to be credited, at least I'd see either on Wiki or on some of your stuff, where he would appear as a ghost musician doing quote-unquote drum fills and other drum parts for Eric. So I don't know if maybe he was just, Alan was Paul and Gene's comfort security blanket, kind of breaking in the new Eric, breaking in the new drummer. And when you read Paul's book, of course this is coming from Paul's words, Eric wasn't very confident. It blew his mind that he was in Kiss, and he battled issues of having confidence and believing he was good enough to be in Kiss. And I mean, who knows? That could have been true, or it could have been placed upon him by being in a band with two big, huge egos, such as Gene and Paul. So, but yeah, it is kind of interesting that Eric played on every song on the album except for, like you said, and he had no problem playing it on Fridays. So.
Just quickly on that, like, I think me and you can both attest for being hard on yourself, mm-hmm. and like not being confident in your ability. And we've talked a lot about it before, but like the way that you look at someone who's better than you, there's someone who's worse at you that looks at you that way. Mm-hmm. So yeah. That's the thing that you got to try and think about.
As a musician, there's always somebody better, and there's always somebody worse. Yeah. You just have to try to be happy and confident in what your abilities are and try to improve.
Yeah, and just work harder.
Right. All right, so what do you think about I? Where do you score it as?
I scored it at 8. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the vocal deliveries are a little strange. This is one of those songs where, like, if we're talking about the context of this being in a film, this is the one where I really, really have a hard time being like, okay, where does this one fit in the film? Because the only thing I can figure is, like, this is the one that rolls during the credits, right? I mean, it has to be, because this is like, we've although it's not at the end of the track listing, it's like, okay, we've been the boy, we've been the man, we've beat Mr. Blackwell, we ran off the exploding Bruce Willis Island, and we've won, and now you can do anything you want.
And now we've time warped into the 80s, and we're in an 80s montage like Ferris Bueller riding down the parade,
yeah.
And ticket tapes falling down, and we're on the parade thing going, I believe I can do it.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, so, and like, never mind like Escape from the Island, Mr.
Yeah.
Blackwell, that already throw like the time loop into this, but this is one of the ones where I really, really had a hard time imagining where this fits into a film.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we said before on our original thing was credits.
Yeah.
This is where the credits roll.
Yeah, I think that was the joke. We were like, and this is where the credits roll.
Yeah. And then at the very end, the guy's talking at the very end. Morpheus, he's got the light in his eyes.
Yeah, that's the pre-trailer for
the sequel. That's the pre-trailer for the sequel. Yeah, see, we had all this worked out. It's like, one of those where the scenes that comes back at the very end of the movie.
A Marvel ending.
A Marvel ending. or a John Hughes ending. He was real big about doing that with Ferris Bueller and Home Alone, and he did that on some of, and you know, they do it a lot in superhero movies now. But John Hughes did it a lot in his movies in the 80s.
I wouldn't know.
No, you wouldn't know. You weren't born until 93.
5. That's my sister.
Oh, 93. I get y'all confused.
It's okay. Anyway.
How old are you again?
I just turned 25.
He just turned 25. So there you go. All right. So, number 1, we know what it's going to be, but what was your prediction, Rick?
I said The Oath.
And Julian?
The Oath.
I thought it was going to be but...
And I predicted The Oath. I knew The Oath was just too strong on this. And check this out, guys. I, at second, scored 507 points. The Oath, at number 1, scored 705. It's like it blew the rest of them out of the water. 35 panelists. Matt Ucci, Frederick Scalen, Kiss posters, AJ Zetro, Sweet Dan, Wesson Matthews, Serena Dorothy, Hal Face, Sean DeHaan, Colin Paradise just sounds bad. Colin Paradine, Tony Rod, Dave Cranston, Sam Lewis, Jack Skellington, Paul Teplius, Tom Dust, Aladio, Bill Sharp, Demetrius K, Travis Mulgard, John B. Good, Snake Hips 3131, Mick C, Orville Dunworth, The Matthew Smith, Joel Pegg, Hospa Metal, Les Wadley, Vaporman, Sublime 130, Jay Lee, Keith Nidu, Greek Freak picked this as their number 1. I picked The Oath as my third favorite. It used to be my favorite song on the album, but I found myself when I listened to the album, when I'm listening to The Oath, and then I go back and I listen to Under the Rose and Only You, I like it. I like them more. I like those 2 tracks more. So it pushed The Oath down to 3 for me, but still, it could just as be 1.5, or it's still just as good as being number 1. The Oath is everything that is right, that Kiss did right on this album. If they were going to do this album that a lot of people considered a horrible, horrible, horrible failure initially, we at least got The Oath out of it. The Oath is amazing. I know a lot of people, like Steven said, they don't care for Paul's falsetto. I said mistakenly one time that this, on our review, that this is the first album a song that we got double bass on. There actually was some double bass on Torpedo Girl at the very end of the song.
I didn't say I didn't prefer. I just said I didn't think a lot of people did. Yeah. I like it.
But to me, The Oath is from the very opening lines. You if you've got your thing. If you've got your stereo turned up to 7, you're going on up to 10, and you're going to keep turning the dial to see if you can get it higher. And you roll the windows down, and you speed up about 10 miles an hour while you're going down the road, and you listen to this amazing, amazing song. Everything's amazing about it. Even the falsetto harmony vocals. Not just falsetto, but harmonizing falsetto vocals. Great song. So it's number 3 to me. It could as easily be number 1. But what about you, Rick?
I'm pretty much a mirror of everything you just said. Number 3 for me could be number 1. It's oh man, that riff. It's the riff, and this is kind of a glimpse of the band we would get moving forward. This is a prequel to Creatures, a prequel to Lick It Up, and man, it's that riff. Yeah, it's just delicious.
Yeah, for me, it's number 1. Has always been number 1 from this album. Will always be number 1. My personal quest of finding the Elder is just so tied up with this one song. It's also one that I love playing on guitar. I just absolutely, I mean, I hear it and you like reach for guitars. Where's a guitar? I need to plug in and play it. The falsetto works on it. The regular vocal phrasing works on it. The lyrics, again, are very positive Kiss. They're, just, again, it's motivational, inspirational, and it makes sense within the dynamic of a pseudo story soundtrack.
It's number one for me as well. I mean, I love everything about the track. It's very power metal, very early power metal ish, or as the kids call it nowadays, Viking metal. And it's like that kind of like very punchy riff, and we do get the double bass over the course of whenever Paul's doing the falsetto and stuff, and like I don't know it. I mean, I'd say the same way that 10 and 9 were pretty far for me on this album. I'd say like 2 and 1 are pretty far away from this one. So I mean, it's far and away my favorite song on this album. Far and away, probably one of my favorite Kiss songs. Period. So yeah, number one.
Yeah. With a very short, almost sounds incompleted solo by Mr. Paul Stanley. It's maybe 2 or 3 bars and then he's done. And I think Julian, if I'm correct, Ace recorded a solo for it, but Bob opted not to use it. Is that correct?
I don't know about that, but he certainly did fine on a solo on Fridays when they did the TV broadcast of it. Ace nails one there, so that worked well with the song. So he probably did something.
Yeah, he played a full solo right up all the way to before Paul came back in and started singing. I love the bridge on this. I love how they stop and then Eric does those fills going down to Tom to do 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 do. That's just fun. Anytime you get to do Tom work on the drums, because you spend so much time on the bass and the snare, and when you get to do those kinds of drum fills on this, and this song is just chock full of drum fills on the toms. But even though they don't really go back into a melody or anything, I like how when Paul says there's no turning back from this Odyssey. Oh yeah, Odyssey. So even that little one word, there's no turning back from this Odyssey. Oh yeah, Odyssey. We heard that song earlier. If the way it was, and I had, and we all had, we didn't get it until the reissue or whatever, the original, the actual running order. It really did a lot of disservice when they changed it around and put the oath right at the very beginning. But this is their first album they did for Polygram, and Polygram was left in the dark about a lot of it. I think I read somewhere that like Ezrin would only talk to Kiss and a coin. He wouldn't talk to the record label directly. Everything had to be communicated from him to the record label from a coin. And when Polygram got it, they freaked because this was their first album with their big Polygram deal, and they get the Elder. So I think it spent like 11 weeks on the charts, and then it was gone. So, but it's a classic. So,
how would you feel if someone handed you the Beatles and then Beatles turn up with Sgt. Pepper?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this almost, I know it's a far stretch, but this is like almost like Kiss's Sgt. Pepper. I mean, and Sgt. Pepper isn't. If you listen to Sgt. Pepper, I'm not trying to slam a Beatles fan because God knows I got enough trolls on my channel already.
I'll do it. I don't like the Beatles, so I have no loyalty.
But there's not very much cohesiveness to Sgt. Pepper's either. It's just, but you appreciate it for what it is, and I love Sgt. Pepper's. It's one of my favorite Beatles albums. But yeah, it's a concept album as well. So yeah, that's it. So final thoughts before we talk about the next thing we're going to talk about. And for those of you who've stuck around this long, you're going to get a nice little surprise here. So final thoughts, Rick.
Just like you guys were mentioning the working copies of songs earlier, Just a Boy and Escape from the Island. This is the one album I wish there was a box set for, with all sorts of, demos and scripts and a coffee table book. This album's so mysterious. This album needs to be appreciated and needs to be, a loving product needs to be put out for this record. And then on a completely different note, but the same, thank you, Brant, for doing these panels. This one has come full circle for me, as my first videos I ever watched of you were you and your son reviewing. So very cool to meet you tonight. And also, Julian, I met you at the Dress to Kill corner in New York. You gave me this button, and you
That's
sat
right.
right. You sat right
Because
behind us.
you were filming that day.
Yeah, and you sat right behind us at the Madison Square Garden show. So this episode here is life full circle, and it's awesome. So much fun to be a Kiss fan.
All right.
That's so funny. That's awesome.
What about closing thoughts and final thoughts on The Elder for you, Jillian?
There are no final thoughts on the Elder. It's a continuous thought about the Elder every time I listen to it or get in the mood to it. I like what Rick said about the deluxe edition. It's been a topic that many a fan have discussed and debated. It would be wonderful to hear what's left from the cutting room floor. I still want to know what dialogue was cut out. Is it just what we found in the script? Was all there was? I want to hear Ace's solos that he suggests Bob stole, that he deleted. I want to hear the 4 songs in pristine condition that they were recording before it became The Elder. There's so much more with The Elder, but it's never going to happen because it's an embarrassment. It's the Brown album. The Beatles had the White album. Kiss had their Brown album.
What about for you? Being a relatively new Kiss fan and being this one of the first albums you got exposed to.
Well, I'll say quickly, likewise, Rick, it's nice to be in a video with you. My dad talks about you more than most real people, and well, not to say you're real, but like internet, face to face. He talks about you more than
Rick.
he does.
Rick is a household name in my house,
I
pretty
know.
much.
Pretty much.
You get talked about like you're the neighbor that lives next door.
Yeah, you really do. You get talked about a lot. But yeah, so likewise, and thanks for watching and being a good friend of my dad. He needs someone to say all this crazy stuff to besides me.
Yeah.
But final thoughts on Elder. Gosh, okay, probably I can't remember if it was second or third, but it's like second or third Kiss albums I was exposed to. I think maybe the first one was Destroyer. I can't remember if this or Carnival of Souls was the next one. I don't understand why there's so much drama on this album. And I think this is one of the ones where it's just like this and Carnival of Souls both exhibit this doesn't sound like my band, so therefore I will hate it. And I think that's just such a bad way to think about music, man. It's a shame. You
pigeonhole your band so much by doing that. Just let them make music, and if you don't like it, then at least give it a chance.
Yeah. And my biggest thing is, if you don't like it, cool. Don't make someone else don't tell someone else they can't like it. It's just like one of those, I don't want to say it's a masterpiece, but it's just such a far and away thing, and like maybe some types of music that would like Kiss fans may have never even been exposed to. So I mean, perhaps it was a poor like financial decision or like business decision. I mean, ultimately the film never got made, so really it was just kind of waste to make the soundtrack. But I don't think it was, because I love it and I hold it dear to my heart.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I read somewhere, and that makes me proud. That's parenting done right. That makes me proud. But I read somewhere that the album was supposed to be the appetizer that was supposed to wet people's whistle. That they had a budget set aside for a tour. There was going to be a themed tour. And I don't know how much of a budget was set aside, but Rick, going back to your coffee table book, if there was stage design, we saw the costumes because they had the costumes. So would it be like Kiss to design costumes without designing a stage? Mm-hmm. I think there was a stage design. They probably had, stage design. It would have been interesting to see what the stage would have looked like. It would have been interesting to see the entire script for this movie, if there actually was scripted. But from what I think I've read, that there was a budget set aside for the movie, and there was a budget set aside for a tour. And then when the album came out and wasn't well received and flopped, then they just scrapped everything else. They scrapped the tour and scrapped the movie, and just then slowly put the album on the shelf to let it collect dust. It's one of those albums that it really surprises me that they still acknowledge that it's in the catalog, that they didn't delete it. But we'll see if we ever get a reissue. I know we've gotten some reissues of albums like Dynasty, looking to see if we get a reissue of Unmasked. And if we get a reissue of Unmasked, well, let's see if we get a reissue of The Elder. So it'd be really, but I would like to see it be something other than just a color vinyl. But most likely, that's what we're going to get. We'll get a colored vinyl. But it's a shame
hope it's brown vinyl then.
Brown vinyl.
I bet it'll be clear, just total clear vinyl.
Clear vinyl, yeah. But The Elder to me, it's one of those albums that I listen to very often, and when I put it in, I'm like you, Rick. I like to listen to it from beginning to end, and I like to play that story in my head as it's going. I like to play it and play it over and over and over. All right, so guys and gals of the panel, that is The Elder. So if you've stuck around this long, then guess what? You have a special opportunity. We have with us, as we've said, we got Mr. Julian Gill with us, and from KISS FAQ. So be sure to check out his webpage and be sure to check out his YouTube page. Give him a subscription and check his website out, because it was a gold mine for me. Continues to be, and he's got a good community going on over there too on his pages as well. But Mr. Gill wrote it's Odyssey, right? What's the name of the book in its entirety? The Odyssey, and that is his book.
Yeah. Do I want to do the full title? Odyssey, the definitive examination of music from the Elder, Kiss's cult classic concept album. That's a mouthful.
Yes. Jillian has graciously is going to allow one of his books to be given away. He's going to sign it, and I'm gonna have a contest. So if you're watching this video right now, I recently have launched a website. I am going to put the website in the link because it's a mouthful and I can't remember it right now off the top of my head because it's brand new. But the link is going to be in the description of this video. So if you once you finish watching the video, go to that link, click on that link, and go to the Contact Me page, and you will be asked to put in your name and an email address. You can it'll ask for a phone number, but you don't have to put the phone number. You can just put in an email. I just need a way to contact you. Put in the little subject thing there that you want to be entered in the Elder book contest. And I am going to give you until March the 15th. I don't even know what day that is. I just pulled that date out of my butt. But you've got until March the 15th to get a message to me via that website on the Contact Us page. Put in your name and your email address or your phone number, and I will notify you if you're the winner. I am not going to contact you. I'm not going to send you spam mail or send you spam texts if you do not win. That is only to get, I'm not trying to collect data or anything like that. That is just the best way for me to get people entered in to the contest from a central location. Plus, while you're on my website, take a look around. It's kind of become my hub for social media, videos, podcasts, things of that nature. I've currently been added to iTunes for podcasts and Podomatic, so there's going to be some audio exclusive stuff coming up on those things. So go to that website before March the 15th and put your name and information in there and let me know that you want to be entered in winning that book. We'll draw the winner. I'll make a video announcing it, and then we'll have Mr. Gill sign that and maybe even dedicate it to you. And if that's okay with you, Jillian, and send it out to you. So how's that sound? Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
All right, man.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, Jillian, once again, sir, totally appreciate it. I admire you greatly, and I hope to meet you someday. But we'll figure something out. We'll make it happen.
Well, we'll all meet in New York City, July 17th, 2021.
There you go. Yep.
I don't know if I'll be in the concert, but if it's at Central Park, I'll stand outside of it and listen.
And there's always the Dress to Kill corner. I'm sure it'll be busy that weekend.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Dress to Kill corner. There'll be a line. There'll be a line to get the picture taken with the pole. Yeah. That's bucket list type stuff right there. Rick, awesome. Same as always, man. Thanks for being my partner in crime. And
Thanks for having me.
sticking here with me through these panel videos. You've been in the very first one, and we're just going to keep drudging through. We're going to get through these 80s, man.
Oh, this is the juice right here. We're getting into the 80s, so
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And as always, thanks for my son taking time out of his busy schedule. I'm just glad I raised one Kiss fan out of the bunch.
Well, you know when you'll see me back here. If not before, but you know for sure when you'll see me back.
I know when I'll see him back. He'll be back for at least Carnival of Souls. All right. See, I think it's funny. And this is where Kiss, this is the little tidbits at the very end that the people hang on to my too long videos. Kiss, two albums they considered embarrassments. The Elder, Carnival of Souls. Two of a 25-year-old person's favorite albums, Kiss albums, The Elder and Carnival of Souls.
Yeah. Carnival of Souls is my favorite. Bar none. And I don't know. I mean, I grew up primarily in 90s, 2000s. So that's all my jam.
He told me one time, I like Kiss when they're not trying to sound like Kiss.
That's my favorite, yeah.
All right, guys. We appreciate it. Thank you, panel members, for contributing, and thank you guys for watching. We will be back with another panel video, and let's see what is next. Creatures of the Night is next. So by the time you see this video, the Creatures poll will be up on all my social media and open. You can also, if you want to submit your lists for Creatures and any future panel albums, feel free to go to the website and put your information in on Contact Us. Put your list in there as well. Use that website as a hub, if you will. And that's it, guys. That's all I've got. I'm Brant within my head channel. For Rick and Mr. Gill and my son Steven, we'll see you next time, guys. Thanks for watching.